Welcome everyone to another Knocked Conscious. Today we have a returning guest from an If by Whiskey episode. We have John Graham. He's the author of Quest, Risk, Adventure, and the Search for Meaning. He came to us through I think LinkedIn, and basically we just had a conversation. And the more we spoke, it opened up more avenues for discussion. This one's probably going to be a little woo. So hopefully we'll get a little bit into like paranormal, psychics, things like that, because John's led a life. So I love to delve into that. So John, welcome to Knocked Conscious. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for inviting me on again, Mark.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad to see you. Now, let's start with the Giraffe Heroes Project that you're a part of. Would you like to share a little bit about that before we get started with the rest of it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It wasn't, I didn't start the Giraffe Heroes Project. My wife, Ann Medlock, started it almost 45 years ago. And it's not about animals. It's called the Giraffe Project because it's about people sticking their necks out, hence the metaphor. And Ann was a single mother in New York City where I met her. I was working at the United Nations. And she was fed up with the fact that all the media of the day, then and now, I guess, is all gloom and doom, rapes, pillages, stuff. She knew there was lots of good stuff going on the planet, and nobody was telling the stories. So she decided she would set up her own news service, finding heroes, real heroes, people sticking their necks out to make their communities, their world a better place. And she would get their stories told, much like the troubadours of the Middle Ages did the same service for kings and kingdoms. Then they found heroes and told their stories so that they would inspire
Yeah, they
more.
did it through like song and poetry, right? They would write stories about them and
Oh,
about their.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, Anne started with stuffing press releases into envelopes. This is 1982, right? And then making vinyl records. I bet that half of your viewers today don't even know what a vinyl record is. A piece of plastic goes round and around on a turntable, and sound comes out. Anyway, she would find
Surprisingly, John, I think we talked about this last time. It's actually made a comeback. There's more vinyl records on the shelves than there are like CDs and DVDs. It's crazy how it like the full circle. You know what I mean? It's such an interesting thing how
You're right.
humanity.
I had forgotten. Sorry about that.
No.
Anyway,
I love it. I love it because it is funny because it's generational, right? You did definitely transition away from that for a long time.
Anyway, she started that way, and it caught on, and people love the idea of having a troubadour in our times. Anne was that troubadour, and I met her soon after she started it. I was at the United Nations, and she was doing this. Quite frankly, I thought it was a little lightweight. I mean, I wasn't sure you could get anyone to do anything just by telling them stories, and boy, was I wrong. I've been a platform speaker for a long time, and I thought if you wanted to get people to do stuff, you gave wonderful speeches in hotel ballrooms. No, you tell stories, you give people examples, and that's how cultures change. And Anne intrinsically knew that. Anyway, I fell madly in love with her, and we got married about that time. So we've been husband and wife and partners in the Giraffe Heroes Project ever since. Doing the same thing Anne started doing, only, of course, now we use the latest in social media. And no longer vinyl records and stuffing paper press releases into envelopes. So we found now almost 2,000 of these remarkable people and told their stories. And I think, inspired all kinds of people to do really brave things. And the people we inspired are like everybody. They're male, female, every color in the rainbow, every walk of life, 60, 70 countries. They're all tackling big, tough problems. It could be, well, for example, for a teenager, the problem might be dealing with bullying in her school. And for adults, it might be global warming or some whistleblowing stuff going on that needs to be corrected, and people are sticking their necks out. So we find people active, trying to solve any of the tough problems that bedevil our times, including a number of the problems that you and I and your audience read about every day. What the hell's going on in Washington, D.C. with the current administration and all that stuff. We're very active. We've created a program for schools all the way from kindergarten to through high school. Ann and I, between us, have written 4 or 5 books on how to stick your neck out and not get your heads cut off. And then you mentioned my memoir, Quest, Risk, Adventure, and the Search for Meaning. And we're constantly looking for new ways to do the same thing of finding people, telling their stories, getting more people to feel the energy of participation, of realizing that you can't wait for someone else to solve the problems that bug you. You got to get out there yourself. And we've devoted our lives to to motivating people to do that.
I love that message because we're coming out of like this a highly electric election period. It was
Yeah,
primary yesterday, for example, right?
yeah.
Uh, I I actually met Rep Massey before, honorable man. That said, we're not liberty acts, it doesn't vote. You know what I mean? And to your point, we need to act. We need to do. We can't just talk about doing or vote on things. We need to actually pick ourselves up, pick up a shovel or pick up whatever we can, whatever limited we are, just start somewhere, right? And then that grows to the next thing, and hopefully we can blossom together as community.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people, of course, come up to me or to Ann and they say, "Oh man, you two are terrific, but I couldn't do that, or I couldn't do what some of these 2,000 giraffe here. I'm just an ordinary person." And we say, "Hey, just start small, man." I mean, let's say, for example, in your little community, someone wants to ban books in your kid's middle school, and you think it's a bad idea. Well, show up at a school board meeting and raise your hand, make your voices known. How big a risk is that? Just start small. You don't have to solve the problems of the war in Iran tomorrow. No one's expecting you to do that. But you look around yourself, you see what resources you've got, you see where your place, who your contacts are. They give you some hints of where you can make a difference. I do a lot of speaking to business people, for example, Mark, and the business people are always a little skeptical, like, man, this guy's just another do-gooder. Come on. That's not what makes the world go around. And I say, hey, look, I'm not asking you to stop being a business person or an entrepreneur. No, no, no. If you make a good product, sell it for a fair price, good labor conditions, mindful of the environment, a good neighbor in the communities where your plants operate, that's a service. I mean, a barber listening to you tell the stories of your latest gripe when you're getting your hair cut, he's providing a service.
Absolutely, bartenders, right? I mean,
Bartenders.
how much psychology was done behind, between a bar, right?
Yeah, right. So
Or
anyway, we're
over
looking
bars.
for people who are we're motivating people to just look around, because I guarantee you there isn't a single person listening or watching this podcast that isn't bugged by something. Maybe it's small, it's a community thing, or maybe it's something that Donald Trump is doing that just ticks them off big time. I don't know, or maybe it's some huge global subject like climate change. Whatever it is, look at what you can do with your resources. If you're good at math, well, maybe that will guide you to where you might make a difference. If you're good at music, well, maybe that will guide you someplace. But what you can't do is just shove it under the rug saying, I can't do anything. You can always do something.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with Jordan Peterson, but he
Oh,
works
yeah.
with a lot of people with depression, for example. And it's like the first thing you do is make a list. So the first thing to do to get out of your funk is make a list. It's like, oh, I can make a list. So like you already checked off the first thing. So you're already starting to move. You know what I mean? To move towards a goal just by starting to act to begin with.
Yeah.
Momentum, right? It stops, keeps you from going, just like it keeps you from stopping once you get going.
And you have,
It's a
and
it's a
it's
big thing,
risky.
inertia, I guess.
Yeah, and we have to be honest here. This is risky business. Sometimes these wonderful people, these heroes that we honor, or any heroes, sometimes they get flattened. They don't win every round. So you have to be prepared for the inevitable setbacks and keep going. And a lot of what Ann and I teach is how to deal with keeping going and keeping on, because it's almost never a smooth path. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a risk. Risk or risk
Well, that's
because they're risky.
and that's the beauty of it too, is you are going to lose because you have to lose in order to understand what winning is, and you have to understand you have to understand perseverance and all these things. And to be honest, to your point, like struggle is where humans find the most meaning, is through struggle, right?
Yeah. I think people, yeah. And you brought up the question of meaning, and I'm glad the conversation has turned there, because I think the question of meaning, personal sense of purpose is so incredibly important. I think every human being, I don't care whether you're left winger or right winger or whatever, every single one of us has one thing that's really important, and that's to have meaning in our life, so that when you get up in the morning and you look at that person looking back at you in the mirror, you're convinced that what's looking back from you in that mirror is on the planet for a purpose. But you're not here just to mark time. I mean, that'd be like a Swiss watch with no hands on it. How stupid would that be? So every one of us wants to find meaning. The challenge for most people is where to find it. Now, my life, the whole first half of my life, I found meaning through adventure, often violent adventure. I have a lot of credit as a mountain climber, for example. And then I was in the U.S. Foreign Service, not in embassies and fancy capitals in Europe, but in jungles and deserts and in wars and revolutions. By the time I was 40 years old, I'd faced a violent death. I don't know, at least a dozen times. I mean, close. I mean, but I kept walking away from it all, from all these adventures. So I assumed I was indestructible. So I got totally hooked in finding the purpose of my life in the adrenaline rushes.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted until I was damn near 40 years old. And I realized, and it happened to be in the middle of a violent battle in the war in Vietnam, where it was at the time. It happened to be in the middle of that battle that I finally began to wonder about the fact that I was leading a life that was nothing but adrenaline rush. I didn't give a damn about other people, other people's needs. I didn't give a damn about communities. I didn't give a damn about the suffering and disease and poverty in the world. All I cared about was me, and my next adventure. And
And
suddenly,
in a weird way, like getting your next fix. You kind of became an addict to
absolutely.
this next thing, right?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. And I used the same word. I think I was an adrenaline junkie. My drug of choice was adrenaline. And because I was big and tough, I did really well at it. And the State Department kept sending me to more and more dangerous places. And so that's what I did. And then and then things changed. I mean, it's a longer story, but they did change in the battle in Vietnam, where once again I almost died because the North Vietnamese army were only 6 miles away from the city where I was the advisor, a city called Hue, only 50 miles south of the then DMZ that divided North and South Vietnam. And I survived because U.S. carrier jets plastered the North Vietnamese attacking the city, and I got out alive. But I got out alive, but it was the lowest point in my life. I got out alive, and I came back to California, where the State Department sent me to deal with a whole lot of PTSD. I mean, man, I was in a dangerous place every day. I never knew whether I would survive the day. Um, and so I was in California, and part of it was dealing with the nightmares and stuff from PTSD. I mean, I'd walk on the shadow sides of the street, Palo Alto, California, to avoid sniper fire. I mean, that's how bad it was. But mostly I was there to deal with this pit that I finally realized I'd fallen into, a pit of self-aggrandizement, a selfish, shallow pit. And I knew that if I wanted to be a decent human being, which I did deep down, I had to leave that life. I had to find something more purposeful, something where I was helping solve problems instead of create them. And it took me a long, long time to crawl out of that hole. And the middle and part of that was a whole lot of psychic experiences, which we can, I know that's the theme of your show. But for 3 years in the mid 70s, I did a lot of psychic stuff, not because I sought it out, just the contrary. I mean, I'm a real intellectual type. I have degrees from
I
both.
feel like you're a hands, you got to touch it, feel it, see it for it to be real kind of guy. I don't
Oh
think
man,
you're a,
I'm
you
that
know what
kind
I
of,
mean?
and also I have degrees from both Harvard and Stanford. I'm in my head all the time. And so when I first started having these weird experiences, I mean, like getting up in the middle of the night with weird nightmares and stuff, uh, I thought I was going nuts. I really did. But I sought some help, and it's curious. I found I my first wife at the time, I heard a radio broadcast about some Puerto Rican guy, some kind of guru that was giving talks on the paranormal not far from our home in Washington, D.C. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on just a second.
Yeah, no worries. Go ahead. You can answer that if you need to, sir.
That's okay. That's okay.
I like
And
it. That's was that a motorcycle
wait a minute. Hold on.
sound?
Maybe I do need to get this. My wife's at
Yeah, no worries.
oh,
Go ahead and do that, sir.
yeah, right. There.
Might want to mute yourself just in case it's sensitive information.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right.
But yeah, so everyone, we're here with John Graham. He's lived just such an amazing life. He's done so many amazing things, and we're trying to figure out how meaning and purpose and everything. And we're going to get in a little bit of woo stuff because he mentioned some experiences. So we're just about to get into that. Let me go back into some comments. Zach, welcome. Derek, you're here. I saw this in a difficult place, trying to get better outcomes.
I'm in the middle of a podcast.
Good luck with that, Derek. You know what, Derek, do me a favor. Reach out to youarethepower.net and maybe Spike Cohn can help you. Reach out to us. We'll talk to you about that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Go ahead, sir. Sorry about that. No
Sorry
worries.
for the interruption.
No worries. So in the 70s, you just had started. So you're one of these people more tactile. You need to see it, feel it, touch it. Yeah. You're a logic person, reason. That's exactly what I am as well. And that's what's interesting. I find people who don't come from that discipline, who kind of get thrust into it, I find a little more credibility because it's not something that they seek or seek to debunk themselves.
Anyway, I went to this lecture, and this guy, he was a fat Puerto Rican in a bowling shirt. Didn't look much like a guru, but he talked about direct connections to the absolute. He didn't call it God, but something bigger than us out there, and you could connect to that without the need of any priests or rabbis or mullahs or whatever. And so I got interested in that, and I started doing, in his group, meditations, which is really difficult for me because I'm totally in my head. Meditation, of course, is where you turn your head off. But in these meditations, I started going to weird places. And finally, I got so deep into meditation, I found myself leaving my body. I mean, I'd be in a chair, and the next minute my body was in the chair, and I'd be in the top of the room, or I'd be out in the street someplace, and then I would be taken into places that were like those described by mystics for 10,000 years. White light, all the rest of that stuff, and it was remarkable because it was all so real. And I was learning stuff out there, existential stuff about how the world worked, for example. It was totally different from anything I learned from any religion or anything else, certainly not from Harvard or Stanford. And so I was very confused at the time as to what was going on. I knew something was weird with me. I mean, an out-of-body experience, if you haven't had one, is like, wow, I must be going nuts. So getting on to your point about being tactile, at one point, I said to the universe, to nobody in particular, I said, hey, look, one of two things has got to be true. Either I'm going nuts, in which case I better leave the Foreign Service and seek mental health, or this stuff is real. I really am getting out-of-body experiences the same way, St. John of the Cross or the Hindu mystics did. Because maybe that's it, but I need a sign. I need a sign. 2 weeks after that sort of low point where I'm screaming at the absolute, like, oh man, give me a sign because I'm so confused. My first wife and I and our kids were at a farm in Charlottesville, Virginia, for a weekend retreat, kind of. And we're sipping a drink on the farmhouse porch with some other adults, and our kids and a bunch of other kids are playing in the fields. And all of a sudden, this passel of kids comes running toward the house, screaming. And it turns out that one of the kids, not ours, one of the kids, a little boy, about 5, 6 years old, had put his hand on a red hot tractor tailpipe and just burned it horribly. And of course, the kid was screaming in pain, and the other kids were screaming. And the kid runs up to his mother, and his mother, she starts screaming. And the father runs into the phone to call 911, and it's just this mayhem and chaos out on that porch. And I suddenly felt the same feeling I had felt when I was in the middle, out of my body, bathed in that white light, that mystic sea. And I quietly said to the screaming mother and child, could I please have the boy? Would you please hand the child to me? And she was confused and shocked, and she gave the little boy to me. And I put his little burnt hand, and you could see the burnt, and I put it between my hands and held it there just for a few seconds. And when I took my hands off the little boy's hand, his hand was completely whole. Not a sign of a burn on it. And I
That's
said,
amazing. Was that the first time you ever experienced anything like that for
yeah,
yourself?
oh, absolutely. And I said, okay.
But you never had it like done to you beforehand. Like it's not been done to you and then you did it. You just did this.
Physical healing, yeah. I didn't think such things were possible. I didn't think such things were possible, but it happened to me. And I couldn't deny that it just happened. I was that participant.
So what's your reaction? Like you're having a heart attack trying to heal a boy who's hurting because you just fixed him. Like what was that initial reaction for you?
Well, this happened just a few weeks after that episode I talked earlier about my doubts.
Yeah.
And I immediately made the connection. This is the answer. It is real. It is real. I did heal that kid's hand. There's no doubt about it. And so I'm not going crazy. So I have this gift. I have this, we call it whatever you want, but I can go out of my body. I can act as a psychic, and I did. I mean, for 3 years, I had heavy duty psychic experiences. I mean, I even led seances and holiday inns, but I never healed anyone again. That was only happened once. I did heal people that were like in the Bible, where it says so and so was possessed by the devil. I had a number of instances where I would encounter people that the Bible, Old Testament, whatever, would have said they were possessed by the devil. And I did heal them. I managed to get in contact with whatever the quote devil was, and talk them down and get people out from the trap that they may have been in that caused them to do crazy, wild things. So I did that. I mean, I could read auras. I mean, it was pretty wild.
So do you use any of these practices when you meet someone the first time? You shake their hand, you get a vibe or you get a feeling, you see an aura. How does it work for you, say in an interaction with someone you meet for the first time or something?
It's gone, pretty much gone. It's
Okay.
interesting because at the end of about 3 years, I got a message and all my communications with, let's call it the absolute, call it God, whatever. I got a very clear message. Then basically the message was, okay, now we got your attention. You understand who you are. You understand the existential part of it. This is what life is about. It's like your existence is an ocean, and you're just a wave in it. You understand that. Now, that's not your life. You're not supposed to be dressed in a white robe and live in a cave. That's not who you, John Graham, are. All we wanted to do was get your attention. And now we've got your attention. So now your path now is to immerse yourself into the real physical world. I was still at the United Nations. To immerse yourself in the real physical world and to do practical things to help solve real world problems.
You actually received the message directly in some way.
From that
Was it through a
moment on,
dream or was it through a meditative state, or when did you receive that?
it was a meditative state. It was a meditative state, but it was very clear. It was very clear. And I had to accept that message because, I was kind of getting used to the fact of being a psychic. 3 years was very interesting. And now this voice was saying, it's over. And it's not over because it doesn't work. It works. In fact, for you, it's worked terrifically well and you don't need it anymore. So we're shoving you back into the real world. From that moment on, Yeah, there are bits and remnants of it. I can still pretty much see auras, but all that heavy duty out of body stuff just stopped. And this 3 years was
I
like,
think it's also with focus, right? Like, for example, Zach, our good friend Zach, talking about he's having mystical experiences. Zach has recently been searching for his, I don't know if it's his purpose. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but through this search, you align yourself with these things, and that's how they come to you as well, right? Because like we always talk about the law of attraction. It's you don't attract people to you. You actually align with the current of the majority of people. That's where the attraction is. So you actually align with the attraction. It doesn't, you don't create the attraction, if that makes sense.
that's interesting. It's interesting. I do believe that in a real, in a very real way, we are all one. I do believe that. I believe that I'm part
Yeah.
of you, you're part of me, and all that. So the attraction is like mutual, always a mutual attraction. Uh,
Right, but it's whether you're aligned, whether you're in touch with it either, too. You know what I mean? Sometimes we get separated, we get distracted. Like you talked about, your initial life journey was adrenaline, so
yeah,
you weren't in alignment with that piece at the time until you had that epiphany.
that's right. And so I urge people to understand that what happened to me is not so weird. That this mystic connection is available. It's out there. Well, I mean, why would John Graham be one of a very few people to experience that? And people say, "Oh, go on." And I say, "Look, the phone rings, or your phone rings, and before you even reach for it, you know perfectly well it's your Uncle Charlie in Boston, whom you haven't talked to in 2 years. You pick up the phone, and sure enough, it's Uncle Charlie from Boston. I mean, explain that to me, will you? We all have these experiences, and it's important. It's important not to dismiss them out of hand. Um, I think,
If I may share a cute one I literally just had yesterday. I was at I do a lot of work which is sometimes repetitive, so you get caught in like this very meditative kind of state, right? You're just typing
yeah,
clicks, it's very just meditative, right? All
right.
of a sudden I get alligator, alligator, alligator in my head,
Oh,
and I'm like, I get stuff too, and I'm like, this is weird. I reach out to my team and I'm like, is anybody thinking about alligators? And all of a sudden my phone rings and it's my mom, and I totally forgot. She's in Florida. She's visiting Florida, her friend in Florida. And I'm like, that's where the alligator pig, that's how the alligator came to me. You know what I mean? It's one of those weird connections that I made.
yeah,
So,
and I don't claim to obviously to understand everything, but I gained so many insights that were not really mystic at all. They were just really good insights on how to live my life, how to develop a sense of morality, a sense of ethics. And a lot of that is tied to the fact that ever since these experiences, I've understood that I am part of everything else. So that makes it really hard to hate someone, for example. I'm just hating my parts of myself. Um, so it's been really important to me to have this experience, and I think it's made me really good as a political leader, because it has given me insights into other people, and insights into myself, and it's given me. It's not that I always do it, man. I do blow up sometimes, and I do lose it. Sure, I do. I'm still only human, but a lot of times I'm able to get some insights stemming from this out of body stuff, this mystical stuff that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I mean, it's like it really is, as if in those 3 years I had plugged my fingers into a light socket, uh,
yeah.
and, and just all of a sudden understood how the hell the world worked, how the hell.
It's like you downloaded wisdom. Like, we can talk about knowledge, right? Knowledge is like, yeah, we have cell phones, the technology is great. I have no wisdom on how to use it properly. I say the wrong things. You know what I mean? I use social media wrong. It's like I'm not kind. So my wisdom isn't aligned with my knowledge of how to use something, for example.
Yeah.
And I think that sounds interesting. So, do you want to care to share any other experiences you had, like direct, like you were in a meditative state and this happened? Any ones that still stick out to you that you ever share
Well,
in any kind of context?
the initial ones were kind of like my training wheels. I would go out of body and I'd find myself like in some forest someplace in a deep fog. I could dimly see the outlines of trees, and I could hear other voices, but I couldn't see any forms. And out there is where I learned a lot about how life worked, about the fact that we are all one, for example. I learned a whole lot about judgment and patience and courage. Um, and just by being out there in this suffuse white light, um, and then, I would come back. I would come back and find myself in a chair, but I had those realizations. I didn't leave. So those early experiences helped mold my practical on earth sense of problem solving, helped me be better at dealing with conflict, for example, at assembling my own sense of compassion and minimizing the stupid things that I might do. So that was the most important thing was the training wheels,
Yeah,
because that was so
I could
weird.
imagine. I could imagine you initially, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's just we talk about personality types and everything, and being such an adrenaline person or person that like a doer, you kind of were like, I'm going to smash that square peg in that round hole regardless, right? And I bet that's how you probably were prior to these experiences, and coming out, you're like, wait a minute, there's another way that's not the way I've been doing it, and it's what much more effective. It's kinder. It can be paid forward. You know what I mean? It's something that won't stop with you just telling someone how it's done or something. It's a way to coax them into them actually moving the ball forward like you had.
Yeah, Mark, that's true. But I don't think I ever would have got there without having that experience of heating that boy's hand. I was just too skeptical.
Right.
But what
That's
after that,
amazing. I mean, that's literally like a reverse burning bush in that respect. So
I thought of it that way, but yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. But after that, I never doubted. I never doubted. So
yeah.
I was able to sort of go with it and with much more ease and
So,
things.
so you had a faith. It just became faith then. Literal the faith now is just that was it. It's there. It
Yeah, I guess it's faith. Although my only problem with the word faith is that it's so closely tied to religion, and I guarantee you that
right. Right.
that I'm not a religious person.
Right. But I would also argue that science is faith too.
Oh
People
yeah,
put faith in
yeah.
science. So
I get you. Yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
but I agree with you. So if I may, Derek has a great question in our on. Do you believe in that I guess the human God, the God that of the Bible or anything like that? What is your spirituality or your hierarchical perception of how
Sure.
it's constructed?
I believe that we're all one, okay, and that I'm. It's like I'm a wave, and it's part of the ocean. And I certainly don't believe in a heaven or a hell. I don't believe that there's a God with angels with harps and stuff like that. I do believe in and that my soul is everlasting, and that when I do die, I'm now 83. My body goes away, but my soul does not. Whatever is motivating me to be John Graham in this lifetime will still be there, and I will be reborn. So I believe in reincarnation, and that's probably one of the more important things to say is that in this state
There's a loop to it.
there's a loop to
You
it.
you come back. You do come back.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the Hindus call
And now
it
if I
karma.
so
Karma.
do you I guess reincarnation wise. So I'm just trying to figure out how to ask. I love that. Thank you for sharing how you see that as one. We're almost just little branches off of the thing, right? In a weird way. I I have a perception that all of us are actual, like we talk about the simulation theory thing, where our bodies are actually all headsets. We're actually living headsets for the universe, which is a self-organizing entity to get feedback to help evolve itself later down the road. So, and that's where the consistent cycle happens. And it's hard to, it's hard to quantify it with like a mathematical equation, but it just feels intuitively correct, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, it makes sense, but let's remember that it's you and me talking, and I'm hoping that the further we go into this, we don't lose some of your audience that think both of us are nuts. uh,
No,
well, I
I
want,
assure you, they already know I'm crazy, John. So it's
I want to make
so
sure.
may I ask this? How much down the rabbit hole did you do? Like past life regressions, remote viewings? What types of disciplines would you say you've done? And if you have an example of each, I just love to hear that because it's interesting. A lot of people are finding themselves trying these things out.
It's different for everybody. I've never spent any time in any kind of concerted effort to do past life regressions. Although the insights that I have had were that a lot of my past lives were in areas of healing, especially Native American. I found that I have an innate understanding of a lot of Native American rituals without having been brought up in them, in terms of a lot of the stuff that a lot of Aboriginal people believe about the universality of all of us and Mother Earth and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of that is real, and a lot of it comes from psychic insights. I don't think Native Americans invented anything; they were just tapping into it better than the rest of us do.
I think that's beautiful. So, with that, within that vein, did you ever do like a tour of the United States through all like little native lands and things like that, or did you ever go to places and get feelings or anything with this during that time frame?
No, I never did. And like I said, the only practical, so-called practical thing that I did, I still sort of laugh when I did it, but people kept asking me when they understood and they had some semblance that maybe I wasn't nuts. They would ask me for counseling sessions, for example, of helping them communicate with someone who had passed on in their lives, and I could do that. I could do that. I'd go into a trance and I could summon up communications with people who were dead. I could talk to the dead and then relay what was said to the troubled person, the real life troubled person sitting in the room with me. I did a lot of that, and it, it was very real, and I think that it was very real. I mean, my own wife, for
I
example.
know it was very real, 100%. Regardless of whether it was factually so, it was 100% real in the experience that you had. 100%. So here's an interesting question. So uh, I'm wondering because you used it in the form of service. I'm assuming you never saw someone like of your own family. Did you ever see? Did you ever make contact with someone of your own past or anything? Or because you were so in service to it, maybe that's what allowed the ability to happen because it was in service to others.
Yeah, it never happened in my own family, come to think of it. Um, Although my with my wife, it came close. I mean, she's always had a fear of water, right? And a fear of drowning, and she can't explain it. She didn't. There nothing physically has happened to her that was like, oh, she almost drowned, and that nothing like that ever happened to her. It's just that there's an innate fear of drowning. So in a psychic session with her, I put her in contact with a previous a member of her family who had in fact drowned, and it was a horrible experience. And this drowned person was still out there hanging around, and so Anne had a chance to take a look at that and understand that perhaps that her innate fear of drowning was being fed to her by a family member who, in fact, had drowned in a horrible way, and was, for want of a better word, sitting on Anne's shoulder and being responsible for a lot of Anne's fears. So it was important to talk to that drowned person and tell them that it wasn't doing anyone any good. For her to hang around my wife, it was hurting everybody. And it seemed,
Have you ever thought it was actually her, like a previous her that drowned?
yeah, of course I have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, because like you know what I mean. Like when you think about like you see a relative or something, you hear relative, but it's like you're the one has to go through your lessons, right? You have to learn these lessons. How are they going to express these lessons to you? And I would expect maybe it was even a previous her that drowned, telling her new self is that is not how that normally is. That's such an
Absolutely.
abnormal.
But there was something that made my wife Anne inordinately afraid of water. I mean, she couldn't swim until, uh, well, for a long time.
I
Right?
I have a feeling that memories, some fears are actually buried in DNA. They're just genetically markered in DNA, like fear of snakes. We have these ones that are obviously complete irrational fear of heights, sounds, and snakes, for example. We used to be fear of fire, but since we conquered it, it's now slowly evolved to where we're drawn to fire and we're no longer afraid of it. It's a very interesting
Hmm.
dynamic how that works.
I'm not sure, and like I say, I mean, and none of these psychic experiences are complete. There are always questions, and some of it I obviously still don't understand. But I do know that if you have an inordinate fear or lust for or whatever, greed for something, that one place I would look for would be in the psychic realms of something that happened to you in a past life or to someone else in a past life who is basically sitting on your shoulder, and you can't get rid of it.
May I ask, were all of your experiences done naturally without any additive help? If you
Yeah.
understand what I mean? Okay.
Oh, you can ask, and yes, the answer is
Well, and I just try to be sensitive to because I don't know how some people feel about that stuff, so I never know initially. So,
it's funny you should bring that up because my daughter, who's now in her 50s, has just written a marvelous picture book um, about tripping, about psilocybin, about magic mushrooms. Uh,
oh my gosh, my
and
audience would love to hear the name of that title. What's the title of that book, John?
I don't know if she's got a title yet because it's not finished yet.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
uh,
We want to be the first people to test it. Maybe we should beta test it. I'm telling you, my people all understand that whole realm.
yeah. Well,
So
anyway, Mallory, her name is Mallory, has written this book and basically coaching people into safe drug experiences. Um, and it's interesting because I have long understood that what I achieve without drugs is very similar to what people on a good acid trip experience. They also see white light. They also can go out of body. The big difference between me and them is that they come down. It's
right,
clear.
and they're like breathing. We talk about breathing techniques, right? Wim Hof and these other people plays ways to get you to these certain states of
Yeah.
consciousness.
And so, and for me, meditation was my way into those realms, except that I learned to meditate so deeply that I basically left my body. Mallory's book coaches people to safely take mind expanding drugs and go to places that seem quite like the ones that I visited without the drugs. So it's interesting because she's coming over for dinner with her husband tomorrow night. We're going to have a long talk. And just before she publishes this book, I think it's coming out, I don't know, next month or something. Um,
Well, perhaps I could have her on if she's interested in talking. I'd love for her to introduce the book.
oh,
That would be just great. So let me know. Yeah, feel
okay.
free to reach out to me.
Okay. Get
That'd be
me.
fun. I'm completely enthralled right now because I I personally have not done anything outside of cannabis in my entire life. I've drank a couple times, but I've never done any psilocybin or any kind of mushrooms, but I've had experiences, but I got hit in the head a lot. So it jarred something loose for me.
Yeah.
This is what happened to me. So
Well, I haven't. It's funny because I'd go on camping trips and climbing trips with guys who would bring along some grass, marijuana, and it never seemed to have any impact on me. So I just says, I don't know what this stuff is. And so
sounds like you're already living this beautiful life that even these things can't reach yet. So it's worthless for you.
but then I made a mistake. I said, "Oh, come on, give me some more." So he gave me like a quadruple dose. It
Oh
was
boy.
was a big mistake. I was in a chair. I couldn't get out of the chair for 2 hours.
You
I
feel heavy, right?
was completely smashed, and it wasn't a good experience. And I didn't feel myself out of the body or anything. I just felt sick, physically.
Not a good experience, but for all that you took and being one person never took it, you didn't overdose, which is an interesting thing about cannabis, right? When we look about how certain drugs have certain effects, even though the experience itself is something you'll never do again. You
Yeah,
got to it. You got through it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
But it really
it's
convinced me that it was a stupid, pretty stupid thing to do. First of all, I didn't need to do it. I mean, if I was getting out of my body and having these highs without drugs, why the hell should I take drugs? Drugs are always dangerous.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. So John, we've been here 45 minutes. I'm so grateful for the time. I'm so thankful. If anybody has any additional questions in the chat, please feel free to drop them. I don't. You lived a very rich life, and a lot of it was politically. You spoke about the UN and all the battles you fought and all these things. Obviously, there's some current things going on in certain areas around the country. Do you have any opinions or any thoughts? I'd love to hear someone with your experience who's seen actually all those changes, for example, in Iran over the years.
Hmm.
What kind of takes are you getting from this, if you may share, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh man, how much time do you have? I mean,
I
let
have
me.
all the time in the world, and honestly, I am an expression of my ideas person. I just want to garner what you think, even if I disagree. I just want you to express it because I want to hear different opinions.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just say this. I just published something I worked on for quite a while on the war in Iran. And I put it as a blog piece on my political blog. And I'm going to just ask your listeners, viewers, to go to my website, which is my name, John Graham, all one word, johngraham.org, and go to the nav bar and hit blog and look at my latest post. And it's got my best thoughts on what the hell's going on in Iran. And the bottom line is that I think Trump is making an enormous mistake, and he's going to get flattened. And he's at a point now where he can't possibly win. The Iranians are I mean,
Well,
it's
first of all, they're formidable, but the question is, can he's stuck? I feel like he can't move forward, and can do you feel he can pull out and call actually, like convince himself to lose the ego? You know, with that ego that he has of his.
No, he can't, and so that makes him really stuck. But I think the only possible quote solution for Donald Trump is to declare victory and get the hell out. And Donald Trump is good at that. He's already
Yeah.
declared victory a number of times over. Just say, hey, now we killed our top guy, we blew up a bunch of buildings, you know, yeah, it's true. We didn't get rid of their uranium, we didn't stop their nuclear things. We blew up a bunch of drone factories, but they can rebuild them in a year. They have a lot of bench strength. Their new leaders are tougher and smarter than the ones we killed. But never mind that. We won. We won.
And more radicalized, right? Like
And they're
it's
more radical.
General McChrystal math, right?
Yeah, right. And
What's
it's,
what's
it,
10 minus 2? 20.
what I like to tell people is Donald Trump did one thing that will make history. He turned Iran from a regional power into a global power. They never could have done it without him, but they must just be happy as hell about having Donald Trump. Sure, they're not happy about having their people killed and their buildings blown up. Sure, I understand that. But they were a regional power, and now he's made them a global power because of their hold over the Strait of Hormuz and their stranglehold on world energy supplies. I don't think the Iranians, in their wildest idea, dreamed that they could assume this power, but Donald Trump gave it to them.
Right. And it's funny because once again he forced their hand. That was their only response, and it's highly effective, way more effective you could imagine.
And not only that, but you read some of some of the news that gets smuggled out. Turns out that we didn't destroy their enriched uranium supply, only a small part of it. Sure, we blew up some drone factories and launch sites, but our
They
satellite
they
photography.
still have 70% of their missiles.
Yeah, whatever. We didn't. I mean, we maybe destroyed 10% or 20%.
Right.
And
They still have 70%. It's unbelievable what
not
they're
only
what
that,
how
but
resilient they are. Yeah.
how long does it take to build an aircraft carrier? You can make one of these.
Right.
You can make a
That
Shahid.
has a laundry fire, John. Come on, a laundry fire that
Right.
takes it completely out of commission.
Just
Come
that
on.
amazing
When you heard that, you must have noted
laundry
living in
fire.
propaganda world your whole life. You must have seen that and gone, laundry fire, guys. Come on.
Well, as an old war planner, this is called an asymmetrical war. That is to say, where the big guy is spending enormous amounts of resources to try to knock down a little guy who's spending almost nothing. I mean, you can build a Shahid drone for $50,000. You can practically do it in your living room, and the Iranians are churning these things out. And it won't take them but a few months to build themselves back up to where they were. And not only that, their hold on the Strait of Hormuz is really tight, because their side of it is a mountainous territory, and they can hide missiles and drones in caves and ravines and stuff. And the only way to get at them would be a land invasion. And I think this is what Trump is looking at. The only way for him to, quote, win by his terms is boots on the ground. And the American people won't stand for that. I mean, another Afghanistan.
I don't think we can do that. We just can't. That would be so devastating.
I think it's
boots on the ground.
I don't put anything beyond this madman, including the use of tactical nuclear weapons. I don't put anything beyond him. He's nuts. Trump is nuts. And you look at what he does with his tweets in the middle of the night. He's not there anymore. He's crazy. You got a madman.
I think he's losing. Yeah, I think he, much like Biden, we clearly saw the decline of Biden. We have seen the decline of Trump as well. It's happening. There's no doubt. Could I ask? And once again, I'm just asking because I don't know from where you come. But do you think there's other influencing nations, groups that are pushing this beyond that? Because we talk about certain nations that have tried to get this for a while and no president prior had bitten. And now Trump with his ego, because Venezuela seemed to have been so successful or something, he thought he could like in and out. You know, it's Trump. It was very game show host kind of.
Right. He thought he could do it in an evening. Yeah, that's right. And, you know, I mean, and now people are waking up to the fact that the two nations profiting most from all of this are China and Russia. Those two countries have got to be overjoyed at what Trump's doing. It's weakening us. It's taking a whole lot of the missiles and guns and stuff that we had reserved for a fight over Taiwan and blasting away, making the rubble bounce and halfway around the world in Iran. I mean, give me a break. And it's like, China and Russia have just got to be delighted that a third-rate power is making a fool of Donald Trump and bleeding America's military resources.
I agree, and what's interesting, we have a anti-war news in our chat as well. I've had the honor of speaking with a gentleman like Scott Horton, and Kyle Anzalone and Dave DeCamp, and these are people working anti-war. And for example, like Somalia, we bombed Somalia over 100 times last year, America, and we're in the 60s already. We're already in the 60s this year, and no one's mentioning those types of conflicts. And I always wonder is like, where are these things being hidden and whatnot? And you must have some very interesting insight from your experiences over that time.
Well, a lot of it is asymmetrical warfare. It doesn't cost much money at all to build a lethal drone or even a missile. Compared to the $8 million a day it takes just to run an aircraft carrier, one of the three over there, except for the one that just had to return to port because of a laundry issue. And
the 13 bases also had laundry issues. I don't know if you heard about the 13 destroyed bases also.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at the satellite photography, it's not fake. I mean, the Iranian missiles were accurate enough to close down half of our bases in the Middle East by blowing up key buildings and making it too dangerous for us to operate there. No one ever thought that the Iranians would do this. Certainly Trump didn't think about it. They wouldn't dare do that. They wouldn't dare take over the Strait of Hormuz. They wouldn't dare lob missiles at the natural gas facilities in the UAE. They wouldn't dare do any of that. Well, they've done it all. And they'll keep doing it because they're smart and they're tough. And they're the heirs of 5,000 years of history of being smart and tough. I mean, this is no Venezuela, as you point out.
And they have shown, okay, The Iran. I'm not on the. I hate to have to preface this, but I'm not on the side of the Iranian regime in any way. I'm an
Yeah,
American,
yeah,
okay, but they have shown a bunch of restraint. They have only escalated proportionately. They have not taken out desalination. They have not taken out some very vital infrastructure that's highly sensitive. It takes years to decades, maybe even to reconstruct. So they are playing such a long, smart, patient game. And I think that's something that Americans and their microwave generation mentality anymore, 30, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. We're too short span to handle that. And I
yeah.
think Iran's playing very intelligently.
I think they are. I think they are, and I don't. As you pointed out, I don't think they're overreaching. I think what they're doing in the Strait of Hormuz is about the least they could do. I mean, if they wanted to, they could just ship a bunch of high explosive into a fishing boat and one dark night sail it into a tanker or a destroyer. But they haven't done that. And if
Right.
they have mined the strait, it hasn't been major. They could drop all kinds of sea-based mines into the Strait of Hormuz, so nothing can get through. But they don't want to do that either, and for obvious reasons, because then they'd have to, when the war ever finally is over, someone would have to clean them up. But they're sitting there on their side of the Strait of Hormuz, and they're in caves and in ravines and stuff, and their missiles and drones are on mobile launchers, so they can keep moving them around. And even if the U.S. gets really smart and destroys 5 out of 6 of them, well, that sixth one could blow up a tanker or a
Yeah.
destroyer.
So so with your experience in foreign affairs over the decades that you had it, I'm curious, was there always it always seemed like there was a push to keep Germany and Russia apart because if Germany and Russia joined in any way, that would be a pretty influential force. You'd have the manufacturing and the scientific mind of Germany, the resources of Russia, and that was part of that divide. Also, we wanted to keep China and Russia apart. That's why Nixon went in the 70s, right, to try to break that apart. Curious how you saw that throughout your time in like the foreign, in US, UN, and all these other places that you served with foreign relations.
Well, I certainly don't see what you apparently see with Germany and Russia. I mean, Germany and
Oh,
Russia
okay.
Germany and Russia fought a war way more
Yeah,
vicious,
they hate each other. I'm German. That's why part of it. So
and the danger of a collaboration there is pretty much non-existent. NATO is becoming the stalwart, the pillar of strength in NATO now that the U.S. is withdrawing. And
correct. They've just upped their military budget. It looks like they're going to some kind of wartime economy thing. Yeah.
yeah, and they are staunch supporters of the Ukrainians, and yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, they are for sure.
The
It's
last
interesting. Do you know who Scott Horton is by any chance, John?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't.
He writes a couple books, but what's interesting, he did an Oxford debate, in Oxford, and the resolution was the United Kingdom would rather go to war with Russia than lose Ukraine.
Mm,
And he was on the side of like, no, they wouldn't. He's like, that's not even a thing. He lost the debate.
mm, mm,
The young people at Oxford would rather go to war with Russia than lose Ukraine. This is where the mentality of the people are right now.
mm.
I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying this is a very pivotal part of how people are perceiving this.
Yeah. Well, we could talk all day and all night
That's
on
about
these
that.
subjects, because each one of them merits a deep discussion. Ukraine, Gaza, the rest of it, and so I know we're kind of like limited for time. And
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a perfect stopping point then, John. So I'll just address it. Derek, email me, buddy. Knockedconsciouspodcast@gmail.com. Email me about this. We'll talk about this because this is important. You're not wrong, but I feel it's nuanced. But John, I'm so blessed. Thank you so much again for coming. Everyone who's in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. John, could you share some of your information? How can we get a hold of you? Once again, provide your daughter's name so that we can look for this thing in the future with the picture book, and hopefully you can connect us. I'd love to have her on and have a conversation about that.
I took a note of that, and I'll make sure today or when I see her for dinner tomorrow that she contacts you, or you have her email address, and then you can use your channels to tell other people about the book she's writing.
That'd be great.
So we'll put that together for sure. Yeah.
So
and contacting me, like I say, my own website is johngraham.org, and the Giraffe Project is giraffe.org. It's real simple, giraffe.org, but Giraffe has two F's. Amazing number of adults can't spell giraffe. It has two F's. So giraffe.org.
I hope I spelled it correct.
Graham.org. The book is Quest, Risk, Adventure, and the Search for Meaning. Oh, yeah. I don't want to get into this, but I do a short form video called Badass Granddad, and it's 3-minute segments in which I tell my adventure stories and offer some life lessons. And it's you can get to it on the search boxes on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube. Badass Granddad. Badass, all one word. Granddad, the 2 D's in the middle. So I urge your viewers to at least look at a couple of these. They're great fun. I've got 125,000 followers already in a year, and which I guess is pretty good.
That's really good, sir. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Well, anyway, so thank you for having me on. And
thank you again, John. Once again, John Graham, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for sharing, just delving into something different. You know, we talk about these real world things. Like, we don't get to always just talk about just open things. And I'm a big Aristotle guy, but it's the mark of it's a mark of an educated mind to entertain an idea without adopting it.
Yeah.
So I hope we've been able to play in the sandbox a little bit today.
Well, I hope so too.
Thank you.
I very much enjoyed it. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Stick around. I'll talk to you on the back end of the music as we leave. Everyone, thank you again for joining us. Another Knocked Conscious. Derek, hopefully I'll talk about that next week. I don't know if I'll have a show next week, but I'll keep everyone updated. Thank you again. John, have a great night. Everyone else, take care.